quiet voice simply had not registered. Gomer then looked closer at his sergeant's face. He tilted his head, asking with genuine concern if there was something wrong with the sergeant's face, noting that his lips were spread out in a very funny way. Carter's eye twitched, but he held the expression. He explained through his teeth that he was smiling. He asked if Gomer had ever seen a person smile before. Gomer agreed that he had, but added unhelpfully that it just looked awfully strange when Carter did it. Carter took a deep breath, politely suggesting that Gomer just get out of bed. He then turned to the rest of the platoon, asking the gentleman, in a pleasant tone, to please line up outside on the street in 3 minutes. As Carter walked out, Corporal Boyle sidled up to him in the hallway. Boyle asked what in the world was going on with this new Mr. Nice Guy routine. Openly wondering if the sergeant was cracking up under the pressure, Carter dropped a smile for a fraction of a second, his true, gruff nature shining through. He explained he was not cracking up. He was practicing. Boyle asked what he was practicing for. Carter explained his grim reality. He knew that the Taylor woman was coming back to the base today. He knew she was going on live television tonight. He had to show her a completely new, reformed Sergeant Carter before she ruined his career on national television. After a severe dressing down by the colonel, Carter felt he had no choice but to change his image if he wanted to keep his stripes. Boyle asked if the colonel had ordered the specific behavior. Carter admitted it was his own desperate idea. He reasoned it was just for one day. He figured it would not kill him to keep smiling for a single day until the lady left town. Boyle agreed, though he muttered under his breath that the effort was liable to make the sergeant awfully sick. Out on the street, the platoon scrambled into formation. They were nervous, waiting for the trap to spring. Carter walked out, beaming. He praised them, calling their quick lineup very nice. Gomer came rushing out of the barracks a moment late, tripping over his own boots and stumbling into his place in line. He immediately apologized, explaining earnestly that the reason for his tardiness was that he could not find his belt. The platoon braced for the inevitable explosion. Instead, Carter chuckled warmly. He told Gomer that it was perfectly all right. He philosophized that an honest excuse was far better than having no excuse at all. He then gently suggested that next time, Gomer might want to leave his belt right next to his bunk, so he would not miss it. He asked if Gomer understood. Gomer nodded enthusiastically, calling him a good boy. The soldier standing next to Gomer whispered out of the corner of his mouth, theorizing that the sergeant had to be on some kind of heavy medication. Carter called the platoon to attention and began to march them down the road. As they marched, Boyle walked alongside Carter, questioning the necessity of this act, while Ampey was not even on the premises yet. Carter shook his head, maintaining his paranoid vigilance. He explained that one could never tell with that woman. She was capable of popping up at any time, in any place, and he absolutely refused to take any chances. He called out the marching cadence with a joyful rhythm, praising the men loudly, telling them they were doing a fantastic job. Later that morning, the men were running through a rigorous combat obstacle course. They were low-crawling through the dirt, practicing moving under simulated enemy fire. Carter was standing near the edge of the field, still projecting his serene aura of peace. When he heard his name called, he turned to see Miss Taylor walking toward him, looking as determined as ever. Carter's heart leaped into his throat, but he plastered on his enormous smile. He greeted her effusively, telling her how wonderfully nice it was to see her again and welcoming her aboard the base. Ampey remained cold and skeptical. She stated simply that she had come to check on Gomer. Carter gestured grandly to the field, telling her she was just in time to watch one of their daily exercises. He pointed out Gomer, who was currently crawling through the dirt on his stomach. Ampey spotted him and waved enthusiastically, calling out his name. Gomer, hearing his beloved Aunt B, stopped crawling. He lifted his head, a massive smile breaking across his dirt-streaked face. He raised his arm high in the air to wave back. In doing so, he completely dropped the training dummy grenade he was supposed to be carefully transporting. Sergeant Carter watched the dummy grenade hit the dirt. His military instincts, honed over years of combat and training, completely overrode his desperate need to play the nice guy. The dam broke. Carter charged onto the field, his face a mask of absolute fury. He descended upon Gomer like a hurricane. He screamed at the top of his lungs, calling Gomer a knucklehead, a numbskull, and a lame brain. He demanded to know how any soldier could pull such a spectacularly boneheaded stunt. He painted a vivid, terrifying picture, asking Gomer what would have happened to the entire platoon if that had been a real, live grenade. Gomer, looking thoroughly chastised, apologized deeply. He admitted he honestly did not know how in the world he could have done such a careless thing. Carter provided the answer loudly. He screamed that it was because Gomer was stupid. He repeated the word 3 times, his voice echoing across the training field. Aunt Bee was horrified. She rushed forward, grabbing Carter by the arm, demanding to know what was the matter with him. She asked why he was shouting like a madman, horrified that he was angry with the poor boy again. Carter, realizing his massive mistake, instantly tried to backtrack. He choked back his rage, his voice pitching up into a strained, hysterical falsetto. He turned to Aunt Bee, insisting wildly that he was not angry, not really angry at all. But Gomer, ever honest, intervened. He looked at Aunt Bee and defended his sergeant. He told her that Sergeant Carter had every right to be angry. Gomer admitted freely that he had done a very wrong and dangerous thing. Carter seized the lifeline Gomer threw him. He pointed at Gomer, looking at Aunt Bee, and agreed in his strained, high-pitched voice. He wagged a finger at Gomer, calling him naughty. Gomer apologized again, his tone deeply sincere. Carter turned back to Aunt Bee, his smile manic and desperate. He asked her to observe how nicely he was speaking to the boy. He pointed out how soft and kind his voice was, asking if this was a vast improvement. Aunt Bee, entirely unconvinced by the bizarre performance, crossed her arms. She agreed coldly that it was certainly an improvement. She then challenged him, asking if this was truly the kind of gentle, soft-spoken sergeant he believed her friend Gomer deserved to have. Carter looked at Gomer. He looked at the dropped grenade. He looked at the dirt. The military pride swelled up inside him, burning away the fear of the television broadcast. He realized he could not do it. He could not compromise the safety of his men and the standards of the United States Marine Corps just to appease a civilian on television. He dropped the smile. His face hardened into the stern, uncompromising mask of a true leader. He looked Aunt Bee directly in the eye and spoke with quiet, absolute conviction. He told her that he could not do it. He stated that he was not that kind of soft sergeant, and he never would be. He then turned his wrath fully back onto Gomer. He promised Gomer that if he thought this incident was going to be dropped, he was entirely nuts. Carter promised that Gomer would be digging ditches and doing push-ups in the dirt until his face turned blue. He barked a final demand, asking if Gomer understood his orders. Aunt Bee gasped, declaring that she had never witnessed such cruelty. She rushed to Gomer's side, calling him a poor dear, trying to comfort him. But Gomer gently pulled away. He looked at Aunt Bee with a profound, quiet maturity that she had never seen in him back in Mayberry. He told her gently that there were a few important things about Sergeant Carter and about the Marines that she really needed to understand. That evening, the entire barracks was crowded around a small, glowing television set in the recreation room. The air was thick with tension. Carter sat in a chair right in front of the screen, his face pale, sweating profusely. Corporal Boyle stood nervously behind him. The television showed the smiling face of Johnny Clark. He announced that their next guest was a lady he had interviewed on the radio the previous afternoon. He reminded the audience that she had made some very strong, controversial comments regarding her visit to the military base. He introduced Miss B. Taylor to the stage. The camera cut to Aunt Bee, sitting comfortably in a guest chair, looking elegant and composed. In the recreation room, Carter groaned, sinking lower into his chair, bracing for the total destruction of his career.